glycine? What if sensing older or slower or more fatigued wasn't regarding age, but regarding a deficiency of one tiny molecule that your body silently relies upon every moment of the day? Well, that molecule is glycine. And it appears simple, but glycine rests at the center of how your body rests and recuperates, and even shields itself from oxidative strain. And most individuals disregard it, but glycine is one of the most significant fundamental elements of a process labeled glutathione synthesis. Because glutathione is that primary antioxidant that safeguards your body from cellular harm. And glutathione is vital for nearly all bodily operations. So before you go out and purchase a supplement, observe this through, because I'll review what science truly states regarding glycine and how it can influence your rest and your metabolism and even aging. And I also wish to discuss when does it make sense to pair glycine with another amino acid called NAC, or another title for that is N-acetylcysteine. And I'll review what human trials display about the GlyNAC mixture, because the evidence is much stronger than most individuals understand. And in the conclusion, I want to review accurate dosing for glycine, and I want to review glycine's possible adverse effects. And just like with any of my recordings, even though I'm a physician, I'm not your physician. So please consult your doctor before you create any modifications to your supplements, as this recording is instructive only and not medical guidance. What glycine does. So, let's begin with what glycine truly performs. It's the smallest amino acid in your body, but it's involved in almost every biological procedure, like constructing proteins and creating collagen. Glycine also aids your liver and controls neurotransmitters. And this is extremely important. Glycine also performs a very crucial function in generating glutathione, which is your body's main detox and antioxidant defense system. Glutathione is what sustains your cells alive beneath strain. Every time you generate energy, you create reactive oxygen species, which are these tiny chemical sparks that can essentially harm your DNA, and it can damage your cell membranes. So this is where your glutathione appears. It neutralizes those harmful sparks, those reactive oxygen species, and it recycles other antioxidants like your vitamin C and your vitamin E. And glutathione also guards your mitochondria from oxidative damage. So to completely grasp this procedure, it truly assists to picture how glutathione is shaped. It is composed of 3 amino acids, glutamate, cysteine, and glycine. And here's the catch. Glycine and cysteine are frequently the rate-restricting elements in this procedure, meaning if either of them is low, glutathione creation decelerates. And this is why glycine is so fascinating. I used to consider it as merely something that you take for rest. But glycine is a major metabolic regulator that may also hold anti-aging advantages. Sleep benefits? So, let's begin with rest, because this is where the proof is the strongest. We have research in both animals and humans that indicate that glycine supplementation before bedtime can enhance subjective and objective rest quality. There's also evidence that shows that glycine can improve several rest parameters like improved next-day mental performance and alertness. And glycine can lessen rest onset latency. Basically, it assists you fall asleep faster. And this is how it functions. Glycine activates your NMDA receptors in your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which then leads to peripheral vasodilation. So what does that imply? Well, your suprachiasmatic nucleus is merely a cluster of neurons in the part of the brain called the hypothalamus. And this is essentially your internal clock that controls your circadian rhythm. This is the part of the brain that receives light signals from the retina, and it uses this signal to sustain your body's 24-hour rest and wake cycle. So glycine activates the essential part of the brain in a way that leads to loosening of your blood vessels, which then causes more heat to depart your body, and that in turn naturally cools your core temperature. And when your body temperature drops, this is when your brain receives the signal that it's time for rest. But there's another incredible way glycine can assist you with your rest. Glycine silences your wake-up neurons that use a chemical called orexin. So those neurons assist keep you awake during the day, but at night we need to adjust those down, and glycine performs exactly that. So glycine can assist you unwind and have tranquil rest throughout the night. Glycine also assists balance out your serotonin and other neurotransmitters that assist with rest regulation. And on top of that, this is extremely important. Glycine assists your muscles completely loosen during REM rest, which is absolutely essential because that's what sustains your body still while you're having active dreams. So all of those advantages combined is what sustains your rest tranquil and lets your body restore itself through the night. Metabolic/anti-inflammatory benefits? But glycine's influences extend far beyond rest. It possesses substantial metabolic and anti-inflammatory effects. There was a 2022 review study that indicated that glycine may possess a function in enhancing different components of metabolic syndrome, which is that collection of insulin resistance and obesity, and high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And this completely makes sense because glycine concentrations are frequently lower in individuals with metabolic syndrome or obesity or insulin resistance. So even though glycine is generally regarded as a non-essential amino acid because your body can produce it to a degree, there are investigations to suggest that it may be conditionally essential in the presence of metabolic disorders like diabetes or fatty liver disease, because then your body utilizes much more glycine and it may not be able to generate it in sufficient quantities. And there's numerous investigations that display glycine's anti-inflammatory effects. GlyNAC. But this is where we also need to stop and examine another significant element of glycine supplementation, and that is N-acetylcysteine or NAC. Some individuals prefer to consume glycine by itself, but some state you should not consume glycine unless you consume it as GlyNAC or glycine plus N-acetylcysteine. So what's the major issue? Well, if you recall, the reason glycine is so significant is because it's one of the 3 amino acids your body requires to create glutathione, which is an incredibly significant antioxidant that essentially guards every cell in your body from oxidative strain or injury. The other 2 amino acids are glutamate and cysteine. So when you consume glycine alone, your body still depends on cysteine to finalize that glutathione synthesis. But cysteine can also be that rate-restricting phase because it's so unstable. Cysteine is easily oxidized, and it's generally in limited supply, particularly if you're beneath strain, or if you possess a lot of inflammation or illness, so during the periods when you require it the most. So the argument is, even if you saturate your system with glycine, you cannot construct enough glutathione without more cysteine. So it's like attempting to construct a house with extra bricks, but no cement. And this is where NAC or N-acetylcysteine appears. NAC supplies cysteine in a stable form that your cells can actually utilize. And once your cysteine concentrations are restored, then that's when glycine can finally become that essential finishing piece. So without glycine, you can't finalize the molecule. But without cysteine, you can't even begin the procedure. And this GlyNAC mixture has been examined in both animals and humans. There was a 16-week randomized controlled trial in older adults that indicated that GlyNAC supplementation enhanced numerous aging hallmarks like mitochondrial dysfunction and oxidative strain. But what was even more astonishing is that the group that consumed GlyNAC displayed increases in muscle strength and quicker walking speed, and GlyNAC assisted enhance mental performance. These are all significant markers of healthy aging and expanding health span. And there was a small human investigation that indicated that GlyNAC may enhance insulin resistance in patients with type 2 diabetes. But one thing to highlight, all of these investigations were extremely small and brief in duration. So the evidence on this is just not as extensive or as strong as we'd prefer to observe. Glycine versus GlyNAC. Okay, so how do we determine whether you should consume glycine or GlyNAC? Well, the way I view it is, if you're young and healthy, your glutathione system is probably already functioning just fine. And in that case, glycine alone will likely perform the task, particularly if we're merely consuming it for rest. But if you possess any metabolic problems like insulin resistance, which includes things like diabetes and prediabetes and PCOS, or if you possess fatty liver or high blood pressure or cholesterol problems, or if you possess chronic inflammation or an autoimmune condition, well then, in that circumstance, GlyNAC theoretically would probably be superior, as you may require that additional boost of cysteine to finalize that glutathione synthesis. Dosing. Now, when it comes to dosing, the most researched amount for glycine alone was 3g, consumed about 30 to 60 minutes before rest. Glycine dissolves fairly easily in water, and it tastes fairly sweet, and it's generally extremely well tolerated. Now, some individuals consume mega amounts of glycine, so they consume quantities much larger than 3g. And we do possess some investigations that examine higher dosing. So, there are investigations in adults with schizophrenia where glycine was delivered at 800 milligrams per kilogram per day. And the average daily amount was about 61g, with a range from 40 to 90g. Now, examining the literature, glycine at 3g per day is generally well tolerated, with only mild adverse effects being slight sedation. But once you reach higher amounts like 800 milligrams per kilogram per day in the schizophrenia investigations, it appears that that amount was still fairly well tolerated with no major safety issues. But these were small, short-term investigations. So, I'd be cautious attempting to extend those findings to broader populations. There are cases where high amounts of glycine resulted in neurobehavioral alterations and sensory overload. And in animal models, there may be a possible concern for cardiovascular and neurological toxicity. So, as a general guideline, I do not recommend megadosing on glycine, at least until we obtain more human evidence on safety. And when it comes to GlyNAC, the recommended amount in published human investigations was typically 100 milligrams per kilogram of glycine and 100 milligrams per kilogram of N-acetylcysteine per day. So for 70 kilograms individual, which is about 154 pounds, that calculates to about 7 g of each per day divided into two amounts. Now, most individuals begin much lower, at around 3 g per day, and then increase it progressively. NAC by itself can cause gastrointestinal adverse effects like nausea and diarrhea. And you have to be cautious if you possess a history of asthma or allergies. But in general, it's fairly well tolerated even at higher amounts. But as always, please consult your doctor before consuming any of these supplements because everyone is so different and it may require medical oversight. That's it for today's video. Now it's your turn, and hey, if this video was helpful, please type yes in the comment box. That one word might seem small, but it seriously motivates us to keep creating more science-backed health content. Just like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support means everything. Naturally, thanks for watching, and as always, take care of your. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel. Your comments are very valuable to us. Please make a small comment. See you in the next video.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel. Your comments are very valuable to us. Please make a small comment.